Hi. So, I have another rant I want to do. And it is in regards to remake movies and generally these Disney remake movies. It annoys me how they think they can take the old script from the old movie and put it into the new movie, word for word, and expect that dialogue to work for the new story and new characters that they're using. Now, there are a lot of scenes that I could use as an example to show why this doesn't work, but I have chosen one from the Beauty and the Beast remake because it is one that annoys me the most. And it is the scene where after they have been in the forest and she got attacked by wolves, when they go back to the castle, their interaction there. Is picking this scene apart petty and pointless? Yes. And normally I don't like being a negative person, but this scene just really annoys me, and so I really just want to vent and get it off my chest so that it doesn't have to just be living in my head anymore. So follow me along for this journey if you want to, and let's dive right in. Now actually, before we dive into the dialogue, I actually want to talk about the blocking for a moment because it actually plays a pretty big part in my opinion. In the original one, they are face to face, and so there is a lot of connection between them. They see each other's facial expressions and they are building off of each other. But in the remake one, he is laying on his bed with his back to her. So there is a disconnect between the characters, and every time he turns around it just feels like a chore. I don't know why they staged it to be that way, with him having his back to her. So anyway, that body language to me plays a large part in the story, and so with that established, let's move on and talk about the dialogue. First, I am going to show you the scene that they are basing this new scene off of, and that they took the dialogue from.
That hurts!
If you'd hold still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
Well, if you hadn't have run away, this wouldn't have happened.
If you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
Well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing!
Well, you should learn to control your temper.
So now that we have that scene fresh in our minds, I'm going to take this new scene and break down each exchange throughout it and explain why it doesn't work in this new movie. So let's take the first couple lines of dialogue.
That hurts!
If you held still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
Okay, so this is actually going to make me dive into a much bigger issue that pertains to the entire movie, but this scene in particular as well. They changed the character of the Beast and of Belle. Now, normally, I don't mind. I don't care if they're going to change up the characters to fit a new story or a new audience. That's just fine. But if that's the case, don't expect the same dialogue from the original movie to work with these new characters. That first line of the Beast, with him saying, "that hurts," in the original one, he yells it to her. He is angry. And that fits with the character they established in that movie, that he is an angry character. And that's his biggest downfall. And that is expressed in that line, him coming at her hard. Now in this movie, how he delivers the line is just really whiny. And that is kind of the new character that they went with. And in a lot of ways, he's almost childlike, just with kind of how whiny he is through a lot of the movie. And in the animated, with him coming at her with that angry tone, sets the tone up for the rest of the conversation. That is why she comes back at him hard, because sometimes when people are at that level of energy and anger, you have to match that energy in order to be heard. And you can't come at them in a nice or polite manner because you won't be taken seriously, and you have to match that energy in order to make any kind of progress. And that is what happens in that original scene, is he comes at her hard, and so she has to push back with that same kind of energy, and that's what she does. And that is why she says what she says in such a harsh tone. But in the remake one, when he comes at her just kind of whiny and kind of childlike, when she comes back at him with that dialogue, it just sounds like she's scolding him. So that dialogue just puts them in a really strange place as far as their dynamic together goes. Now moving on to their next exchange.
If you hadn't run away, none of this would have happened.
Well, if you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
You wouldn't have run away. Wait. Didn't Belle try to run away earlier? That's right, she did. She did try to run away earlier. So for her in that scene to say, "if you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away," that's just a lie. Because in that scene she tried to run away, and in the beginning she said straight up to her father she was going to try to escape. That was her plan all along. That line makes sense in the original because in the animated one, it was very clear to us that Belle intended to stay. She made that very clear through her dialogue, through her body language, and through her actions that she was going to honor that promise that she made to the Beast and keep her word and stay there in the castle. And so when she says that to him, that if he hadn't scared her, she wouldn't have run away, that's the truth. We believe that. That makes total sense. Whereas in the remake, it doesn't match the story that they decided to tell, where she was intending to get out of there. And she did try to escape. So for her to say, well, I wouldn't have run away if you hadn't scared me, she's lying. It doesn't make sense with this new character that they wrote. So moving on to the last couple lines of dialogue that are the same from the original.
Well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing.
Well, you should learn to control your temper.
Alright, so this dives into another problem where earlier in the movie, they changed the story that makes the Beast dialogue here not make sense. In the animated one, the Beast, is the one who takes her to her new room. And on the way there, he explains the rules of the castle. He tells her not to go to the West Wing. And so she and us, the audience, got that information directly from the Beast that she is not to go to the West Wing. But in the remake one, the Beast never tells her that. Lumiere and Cogsworth take her to her new room, and they're the ones who say that. And so in this scene, for him to get after her for saying, well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing, it just doesn't make sense. He never told her not to be there. And so it just seems so silly to me that little things like this slipped by the writers, the directors, everyone, where it's just like, if you're going to change up the story earlier on, you have to make sure that your dialogue later on matches your new story. It doesn't make sense that he would lecture her about that when he never told her about it in the first place. And then Belle's last piece of dialogue kind of has the same problem as the first. Her just scolding him that he needs to learn how to control his temper. In the animated one, that line right there was getting to the root of the problem, which is why it stumps the Beast, really, is because that is his issue. He has a temper problem. And so for her to finally point that out to him and call him out on it makes sense. But in this movie, the remake, him having an anger problem isn't his main big trait. And to be completely honest, in the remake, whenever he does have big, explodey, angry moments, I feel like they're just trying to copy the character from the original because it doesn't fit, in my opinion, with this new character that they wrote for this new movie. And so this last line of dialogue, again, just feels like her scolding a childlike character. Now, given the circumstances and the dialogue that she was given, I feel like Emma Watson delivered her line as well as she could, but it really just doesn't fit this new character that her and the movie makers developed. So that ends the dialogue that is the same. So now let's look for just a moment of how these scenes end in their own different ways. In the animated one, Belle goes back to helping the Beast. She doesn't just walk off, give up on this, or keep scolding him. She goes back to helping this man who just saved her life. She's such an admirable character, and I love how she continues that caring trait of hers. Once he is more subdued and is more reasonable, she goes back to doing what she was starting to do in the first place, which was to help him. And the little bit of dialogue they have, I love. It's her thanking him and him saying, "You're welcome." So when the scene ends, everything is resolved, and it puts you in a really nice place knowing that they are going to continue progressing after this. I love how they end that scene. But in the remake one, all that happens is the Beast turns his back to her again, once again, so there is no connection between them. And then she just continues to lecture him, try to get some rest. Ugh, it really doesn't make her look very good. And it doesn't put their relationship in a great place. Not even a romantic relationship, just them as people, and just relating to each other. It just, I don't like where it leaves them off at. So the last thing that I want to cover in this video is just what this scene accomplishes. Because in my opinion, this scene in the animated one develops Belle and Beast's character so skillfully as individuals and together. What we learn about Belle is that she is a kind, caring person, but she also knows how to stand up for herself and stand her ground. But when she no longer needs to be harsh and mean, she can be kind and caring. the essence of her character is to be a kind, polite, nice person. I love that. And the Beast, we get to see a lot more of his personality, because up to this point we have seen him mostly as being a mean character, bossy to his servants, etc. And so it's fun to see him interact with another person and see how he reacts to that. And then also what it tells us about them together. They are obviously at a place to where they can progress, because she has showed him that she will stand up to him. He is not just this mean, bossy person in the castle. She is not going to put up with that. And so their relationship is at a great place now to where it can continue. And it shows that they do have the respect for each other, where she thanks him and he says, "You're welcome." It just is so beautiful what they did with these characters in this scene. And in the remake one, none of that is accomplished. What we learn about Belle is that she is bossy. What we learn about the Beast is that he's whiny. And what we learn about them together is they don't connect and converse well, and they're not even going to try. It just sends such a strange message. I don't like where it leaves them off at this place in the movie. It really sets them back. So anyway, there's my dissection of this scene. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.